Let's go ahead and get started and talk about how to teach RightStart Mathematics Level B. Again, I am Kathleen. Welcome everybody. Now you have a face and a voice to put together. Webinar information. The sound is muted, so you don't have to worry about any background noises. And if you do have questions, please use the question box to type questions. And as you can see here, Angie's already made some comments, so thank you, Angie. Angie, you do have some questions here. You say here that you'd love to hear more about mental math, mastering specific problem types like adding to 15, for example. Those things I don't discuss as much here. This is more how to teach. But these kinds of things that you're asking, Angie, these are more in the, oh, I forget the name of it, but it's something about the abacus. Marin, help me out if you can think of the name of it. Marin's helping me out here. But it's another webinar that we have on the abacus, and it has those kinds of tricks and things in there, Angie. But if you have questions and comments, please go ahead and ask. Yes, Angie, you can find it on YouTube. It's something about the AL abacus and RightStart Math or something of that sort. But go ahead and ask the questions. I may not answer your questions right away because either I want to finish a topic or it's something that will be coming up shortly and then I will answer it. But I will get these questions answered for you. All right. First of all, looking at Level B, RightStart Mathematics Level B, let's look to see, first of all, what children belong in here. How do we place them in? If they have been through a solid kindergarten program, they belong in Level B. If they know their addition facts up to 10. Who should start Level A, the one preceding this? Those that have not been through a solid kindergarten program and don't know their addition facts to 10. Who should go into Level C? So in other words, skipping this level and going on. That would be the children who know their addition facts, even if they're not quick, but as long as they know them. They know their subtraction facts up to 18. They understand place value. And they can add two-digit numbers with caring. The children that know this need to go on to Level C. All right, so we've got your children placed. They belong in Level B. What do we need? There are two editions. There's the first edition and the second edition. The first edition was written in the mid-late 1990s, and the second edition was written in 2013. The second edition has new research, new ideas, new way of approaching things. There's actually a webinar that talks about first versus second edition. But here today, I'm going to talk about both of them so you can see. So regardless if you're going first or second edition, I'll have this addressed here for you. So if you're going second edition, RS2, 2 being the second edition, you will need the book bundle and your math set. Look at all those goodies in there. You've got your math balance, your abacus, cards, drawing boards, rulers. You've got your math card games book. And in the lesson book, with the lesson book here, it will have, actually right here's the lesson book, it will tell you go to the math card games book and play a particular game. The first edition comes in starter kits. So you have your lessons, your worksheets, and your manipulatives. Notice that there's a lot less manipulatives. The second edition uses a lot more than the first edition. The Level B objectives. This is in the very beginning of your book. You'll see your objectives. And these are nice because it allows you to see what your child has learned. Then the next pages in the book is how this program was developed, some general thoughts on teaching math, and some notes on the RightStart Math program and daily lessons. These are very important to read. I suggest people read them as they start the level and then read it again in probably about 6-8 weeks, because then you know what we're talking about, and now all of a sudden you're going to read something and go, oh, that makes sense. That's why I'm doing that. Because when you read it the first time, you're not really sure what we're talking about. but it's got a bunch of different things in here. So this is very important, these 5 pages. Rita has a question here. She says, I have the first edition, but there's a different package that I can order that addresses the difference in manipulatives, or do you have to repurchase the whole kit? Rita, we have something called a bridge kit that will bridge you from the first edition to the second edition. We've got, so you can get a bridge kit. So you can go from RS1, first edition A, into level B, bridge kit. Or you can go from the RS1, first edition B, into the second edition C, bridge kit. So you have to kind of work with it that way. I believe they're online. Marin, correct me if I'm wrong. If not, you can also call our office and we can help you with that too. Marin says yes, they are online. All right, let's look at the table of contents. In the second edition, we start out with review lessons. These are for children who have not started with level A. So this review is going to help them make sure that we've got the idea of the numbers and you know how to use the abacus. We have enrichment lessons. We have reviews and assessments in the middle, quarterly. We also have it halfway through, another enrichment lesson, and we have a final assessment at the end of the year so you can see how your child is doing. First edition is similar. We actually have a note down here at the bottom. A child who's completed level A can skip these review lessons, if you want to call them that. Personally, I usually encourage people to go through and do them because they're a good addition just to make sure that we know that the child has this. It's a good review. The first edition has 107 lessons, but if you notice, there's a number of lessons in here that take 2 to 3 days. So this ends up being one school year, same as second edition. It will end up being one school year. It also has a test at the end. Both have things in the back in the appendix pages that you need to photocopy. In the second edition, we include them in your book bundle. So everything that needs to be photocopied, we've done that for you. If it's not a page that doesn't need to be photocopied, it won't be in the photocopied packet. First edition, you may purchase that. Again, you don't need them, but you can, a lot of people like them because it's a pain to have to photocopy these things. So you can purchase that additional thing and have that ready for you. Let's look at what the lessons look like. In the second edition, we have our objectives and our materials. If something is bold, like this one is, you can't see it too well, but a calendar showing the month and scissors and glue. If something is bold, that is an item that's not in your math set, but most people have that around the house somewhere. But they are in bold to help you identify the cheapers. I need to go and find my scissors and glue. Activities are on the left-hand side. My explanations are on the right-hand side. This tells me why I'm doing what I'm doing, what's the research behind it, and additional little tidbits that Dr. Cotter comes up with. One thing that we do as we're going through and writing this is she's got something. I know why she's doing it, but you don't know why she's doing something. And so I always will tell her, you need to write that down. So we've got these things in here. We're going to start out with a warm-up. Now I'm going to bring this a little bit more bold so you can see it. It says, tell the child to start with 80 and to add 1. And in the brackets, we have the answer. When there's something we want you to specifically say, it'll say, ask. What is another name for what you're doing? We're counting. Again, we have the bracket, so you know what answer you're fishing for from the kids. So here's our warm-up, and we do have some explanations here for you. Here's evens with the tiles and a note, odds, evens and odds, even stairs, odd stairs, worksheets. Again, another note. And then there's an in conclusion. This in conclusion will be a summary of the day's lesson, or it's an expansion of the lesson to challenge higher level thinking. If that's the case, the children may not know the answer, but they'll mull it over and think about it. And maybe it'll come at a later lesson that will address that particular question if it's a higher level thinking question. The second edition, we do one lesson per day, 30 to 45 minutes, 140 lessons in the school year that include initial review lessons, enrichment lessons, quarterly assessments, and final assessments. The first edition lesson format is a little bit more informal. We still have our objectives and our materials. Here's our warm-up. Notes may or may not be on the side of the page. Sometimes they're embedded inside of it. Sometimes they're not there at all. And sometimes people wonder, why am I doing what I'm doing? There's a reason for it, but sometimes we don't tell you in the first edition. Second edition, we tell you. Here's my activities. In the first edition, when there's something we want you to say, it's underlined. And the answers, again, are in brackets for you. Still one lesson per day. As we discussed, some lessons will take more than one day. 30 to 45 minutes per day is kind of expected. The worksheets are designed to be done independently because math is a written language, and the worksheets is the gentle introduction to that process. But the card games are the review and practice. The worksheets are not your review and practice. The card games are. One more quick note on the worksheets. They are copywritten for a single child's use. If you've got more than one child, you can purchase an ebook. Of course, you could purchase their own coil-bound book too. But usually if you've got 2 or more children, we recommend that you get the ebook because then it comes to you as a PDF and you can print it off as many times as you need for a single family's use. So you can do that. I mentioned the games, and I want to bring this up because they're so important. Games are to math like books are to reading. Games provide the repetition that's needed for those automatic responses, and more importantly, games provide an application for the new information that the children are learning. 15 minutes of a game equals 1 worksheet. Play what's in the lessons, and if you want additional practice and review, replay the curriculum games or go to the Math Card Games book and play games around there, and you'll practice the same skills. Also, we recommend keeping a game log that looks like this. So you can go and write in there that on today we played a game called Go to the Dump, and Jonathan and Matthew played those 2 games. All right, I want to take a couple minutes and kind of talk about some of the foundational things that's very important with the RightStart program that makes us different. You guys all know how to add. And since you do, we're going to look at adding from a child's perspective instead of from a grown-up's, because since you know how to do it, we know using the numbers 1, 2, 3, we're going to change it up a little bit and say A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and we're going to add as if we were a child using the alphabet. What's F plus E? Well, let's use our counters because, we don't know the answer. So here's A, B, C, D, E, F. Now let's add our E, A, B, C, D, E. We got them all counted out. Now most of us are going to go from F to G, but what do children do? They start over from the beginning. A, B, C, D, and they keep going until they've got it. If they've counted correctly, they know the answer is K. That's what adding looks like when you count and you don't understand how the numbers work. Then we expect the children to memorize the facts. Very daunting task. The problem with counting is it's not natural. It takes years of practice. It provides a poor concept of quantity. It ignores place value. It's very error prone. It's tedious and time consuming, and it doesn't provide an efficient way to master the facts. So what we recommend instead is subitizing. And this is something that's been around for a long time, but it's just kind of becoming more of a mainstream concept and word. Subitizing is the quick recognition of a quantity without counting. Human babies and some animals can subitize small quantities at birth. Children, and this is Butterworth is a researcher, he says that children who can subitize perform better in mathematics. Well, I want my kids there. They better learn how to subitize. Subitizing, another researcher says, allows the child to grasp the whole and the elements at the same time. And subitizing seems to be a necessary skill for understanding what the counting process means. This subitizing is very important. So we are going to apply this to the abacus. The AL abacus, which is kind of the cornerstone of everything we do with RightStart Math, this is the only abacus in the world that is double-sided. It's a visual and tactile manipulative that helps the children develop mental images of quantities, strategies, and mathematical operations. It also promotes subitizing. So let's apply this and let's look at this, how this works. So I'm going to have the child show me 3, and now I'm going to put 3 beads on. Now, if the child does 1, 2, 3, well, that's great, but can you do the next row all in one shot? And I'll give the next row a little nudge. Can you scoot that 3 over? 3. Can you do it again? I'll give it a little nudge. Can you do 3? 3. And again? 3. 3. Now, sometimes when you change the colors here, the kids will get stuck a little bit. Most of the time they don't. But if they do, again, give it a little nudge. 3, 3, all the way down. All right, so we've got 3, my quantity 3, and here's my symbol 3. So many times people think that this is 3. This is not 3. This is 3. This is the quantity, this is the symbol that represents the quantity. I realize that's a very small point, but on the other hand, it's a huge point to a child who does not understand that this is 3 and this is a symbol that represents this quantity. And that's what the abacus helps the children with. So we clear it. Show me 5. That'd be all the beads of blue, all the blue beads. 5 and the symbol 5. 7, 7, the symbol. Clear. 10. Oh, kids love 10. All the beads, all the fingers, all the beads. We love 10. And clear. Let's look at doing some adding on the abacus. Now that we've got our numbers, we're solid with the quantities. Let's do 4 plus 3. When I start this out, and the curriculum will help you with this, you're going to say 4 and 3. When I say is, I push it together. Is, oh, I've seen that before. That's 7. The curriculum will help you say help you teach the child that the math way of saying and is plus, and the math way of saying is equals. So 4 and 3 becomes 4 plus 3 equals 7. A strategy that you will learn in level B is called, one of them is called complete the 10. If I have 9 plus 5, I put 9 on the first row, 5 on the next. I'm going to complete the 10 by trading this bead for this bead. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, trade. And now I have 10 and 4 more, or 14. Let's do another one real quick. 9 plus 7. 9 on the first row, 7 on the next. I'm going to trade. 1, 2, 3, trade. Answer is 10 and 6 more, or 16. This next strategy is called the 2 5s. This is my personal favorite. 8 plus 6. Again, 8 on the first row, 6 on the next. Before I do anything, can you see the answer? Look at how many blue beads I have. Look at how many yellow beads. Huh, well, that's easy. 10 and 4 more, 14. Let me do another one. 7 plus 5. Can you see the answer? Answer is 12. The abacus is a physical tool that's needed to develop the mental images. We start out with a real abacus, then we move to an imaginary abacus. An imaginary abacus is either one that I can see it, but I don't touch it. I pretend to move the beads, or I can pretend to see it, but I move the beads, my pretend beads. And sometimes children will go both ways. Then from there, we develop the mental abacus, where I don't actually have to touch it. I just kind of see it in my mind's eye. Like if I were to ask you, what does your kitchen look like? You can see it. You don't have to jump up and go look. It's a mental image, and that's what we want the children to develop. The teacher's manual will tell you when to consider using a mental abacus, but if the child is struggling or counting, use the abacus because they obviously don't have a mental image. It's like if I were to ask you, what does my kitchen look like? Well, I have no idea because you haven't seen it enough. So we want to have them use the real one to step into the imaginary to develop our mental abacus. Another thing that's very important and very different, especially in level B, is the math way of naming numbers. Children often think of 14 as 14 ones, not as 10 and 4 more. The pattern that's needed to make sense of the tens and ones is hidden within the language. So what we're going to do is instead of calling it 20, we're going to call it 210. 21 is 210 1. 22 is 210 2. Now they're going to only do this for about, I'm going to guess it's about 4-6 weeks. They don't do this long term. This is just a short term thing to help again them understand how the numbers are put together. Because you think about it, with the alphabet, we don't do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. When we're teaching them how to read, we give them the sounds. A, B, C, D. So we do the same thing with the math way. And so instead of saying 21, 22, 23, we say 210 1, 210 2, 210 3. There's only 11 words needed to count to 100, the math way, whereas there's 28 in English. Asian children learn math with the math way of saying the numbers, and they understand place value in first grade, whereas only half the US students understand place value at the end of fourth grade. Think about it. How many tens are in 210 7? How many tens are in 210 7? Well, duh. It's kind of like, what's your name, Bob? It's 210. It's right there, 2. Math is also a science of pattern, and the pattern math way of counting helps the children understand and learn their number sense. As you can see here, this is actually worksheet number 9 in the program. If we're doing 5 plus 2, what's 510 plus 210? I've got 7 plus 2, 710 plus 210. There's a pattern in there. Another thing that we have in the level B is the base 10 picture cards. And I want to take a couple seconds to run through this with you because this kind of snags some people because it's a little bit different. Here's our picture cards. This represents 1, 10, 100, and 1,000. Notice, by the way, how the 10 is grouped dark and light, just like the abacus. This looks like the full abacus. This would be if I stack 10 abacuses together. And there will be lessons that will work them up to this stage. So let's add using the base 10 picture cards. So I'm going to start with 3,000, 600, 510, 8. See how that math way of saying the numbers is so helpful? All right, let's do the next one. 2,700, 210, 4. I'm going to add them all together. And now I'm going to trade the 10 ones for 1 10. Can I trade anything else? I can trade 10 hundreds for 1,000. I just added 4 digits with carrying and nobody even cried. Once we go from here, then we're going to go to the abacus and start to work with it. As we go through the books ourselves, we print them all in-house here. And as things kind of work out, and you always end up with a little bit of kinks and stuff. If we find any corrections in the book, we will post them online. So if you go to our website, under resources, there's teaching support. Down at the bottom here is corrections. Here's our level B. Is the second edition, level B. Click on that. And here's the corrections that we have found so far. Here's the first edition, level B. We've got a few more, because of course it's been out longer, a few more errors that need to be changed. There are other website treasures which you may have bumped into. We have pre-recorded webinars. These are other webinars that we've done. These are last year's. These that we're doing now will be updated and put on here. So if you want to share this particular webinar with somebody else, we'll put it on here for you. We also have a blog. We have a new series coming in. These are games that we were playing. And of course, anybody has access to these. We have a new series coming out that we're going to start doing lessons that have problems or somebody gets tangled on them. We're going to go ahead and address them here. This was our first one. And I'm going to have an assortment of A through G, different lessons we'll go through there. But you might want to check back with us and see what other lessons we've discussed in the blog, as this will come up weekly. Couple of quick notes on teaching. Work on the floor whenever possible, especially play the games on the floor. The best motivation for anybody, particularly your children, is intrinsic motivation. External rewards undermine intrinsic motivation. It's critically important that our children like math. How we teach math is often the problem. And remember, your child is doing the best that they can. If you have questions, problems, concerns, you don't know how to do something, you don't know if your child's getting something, contact us. You can reach us on our website, you can email us, or you can call us. All of our customer service people are people who have taught the program themselves, so they have been there and done that. But if you would stump them, you come to me. If you stump me, you go to Dr. Cotter. So we will help you, and we will help your child with this program. Any questions I can help anybody with? Again, we will put this online, so you will be able to reference it at a later time. And I realize you're a little bit handicapped because you have to type instead of talk. But again, if you have any questions, I'll stay on here for a little bit and see what I can do to answer for you. Rita has a question. She says, what do I mean by intrinsic motivation? We want a child and ourselves to have an internal reason for wanting to do this. Let's say, for example, I've decided that I want to feel better, so I'm going to start walking every morning and eating better. I'm not doing it because my husband said, oh goodness, girl, you got to do something about this. Or my doctor says, you have to do something. I am decided to make that change. So I am deciding to read a novel, or not a novel, but read a biography because I want to know more. That's the intrinsic motivation, rather than somebody telling me you have to, or even worse, bribing them. How do we develop this intrinsic motivation? Very good question, Jill. Boy, you guys are stumping me, putting me on the spot here. How to develop it? Actually, children have it a lot. You could encourage, I'm trying to think of a child, you could encourage a child saying, oh my goodness, your room just looks so beautiful when you have it cleaned up. Instead of marching in there and going, young lady, get over here and get this cleaned up. So they want to please you. They want to keep it clean because mommy was so pleased when the room was clean. Or look at how fast you put your shoes on today. Or you cleaned your entire plate up. Or look at how nice you are when you play with your brother. Then they're going to want to play with their brother nice to get that praise. So yes, the praise is external, but you're not telling them, go play nice with your brother. They're developing the desire to want to play with their brother because you're helping foster that. Rita says, so self-motivation versus force. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Rita. That's a good way of saying it. Nicole's also saying it helps remove digital media. Yeah, that's another issue. Any other questions I can help somebody with? You guys had good questions. Cassidy says, we're about halfway through level B and I'm enjoying the different ways of thinking that's applied. I think it's a little bit more challenging to start with for me, but I think my student will reap the benefits long term. I'm already seeing that. I have RS1 first edition. Are the games included on the CD? In the first edition, all the games are in the book. So all the games and all the instructions are in the first edition book. In the second edition, we say go to the math card games book and play, go to the dump, go play corners, go play, whatever the game name is. We'll give you the name. One thing with the second edition, she also has new games that she's made up. So there's games in the second edition that don't exist anywhere else except the second edition. So regarding the games on the CD that's included in the first edition starter kit only has 14 games. There's about 300 right now. She's probably at about 350 games. So there's just obviously a small section. You can also go online and we have some games discussed in our webinars. And I've got a new webinar series coming up. I'm going to show you how to play more of the games. I'm going to have a webinar on addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, and kind of break them out into different sections so that if you're just looking for addition games, go, attend that webinar or, catch it, the pre-recorded or the recording online after the fact too. Nicole asked, can one go through too fast with a 7.5-year-old child? Do we have to balance it with a certain number of lessons of games per lesson? A 7.5-year-old is older. They've obviously been on the planet a little bit longer than a younger one, so they will go through faster because they catch on to things faster. The fastest way to make this program fall apart is don't play the games. So you need to play those games. Now, Nicole, if your child wants to do 3 lessons in one day because, boy, I've got it, go for it. Enjoy, but play those games. Playing those games, that's the review, the practice, that's the fun, that's the joy, that's the application. Play those games. I like to think of the games as like hugs. You can't over-hug your child. You can't overplay the games. Nicole asks again here, I'm trying to find a routine with the games and the lessons. One idea that I have for people, Nicole, is I tell, like if the mom is usually the teacher, I tell the dad, when you get home, you need to spend time with the kids. And I realize he's had a busy day. He's got a lot that he's got going on, but you still need to spend time with the kids. Play the card games with the kids. That way you're getting the card game time, you're getting time with your children, and you're getting wife points. All husbands like wife points. If you've got older children, have those older children play the games with the younger one. The older ones are reinforcing, the little ones are learning. So maybe what you do is you have a deal that you tell the older kids, you can be excused from the supper table tonight, supper dishes, if you go play a card game with your little brother. Win-win. The older one's reinforcing, the little one is learning, and you get the kitchen cleaned the right way. So find a routine that works with your family, Nicole, in your situation, and then stick to it. Ideally, you'll play card games 5 days a week. I know that the real world doesn't work that way, so maybe you end up doing it 4 days a week. But definitely when the lesson says to play them, play them. Rita says, does this program become more self-directed the further we go, or will it be this heavily parent involved all the way through? A, B, and C, and D are very parent intensive. E also involves the parent, but the child becomes a little bit more self-directed at that point. When we hit G, the child is doing it all on their own. I equate it, Rita, I understand, especially if you got a whole pile of kids, it's a lot. But I equate it to when you have a newborn. When you have a newborn, I mean, I've got 4 other kids, and I've got this newborn, and he really, seriously wants to get up every 2.5 hours and eat. Are you crazy, little person? Go to bed. It doesn't work that way. We get up with that little person, we change their little pants, we burp them, we feed them, we rock them back to sleep, and that develops a self-sufficient child. A child who feels safe and feels comfortable and sleeps through the night. It's kind of the same thing with math. We put our time in now so that when they become middle schoolers and high schoolers, they have a solid, confident math foundation that they can build on. Because, yeah, we could have them just memorize all this stuff, but then what happens is they get to middle school and they get to, heavens forbid, algebra, and they need to memorize something. Well, I can't memorize algebra. You have to figure it out. What do you mean figure it out? What's the formula? Well, they don't know it because they don't have it. So that's why we need to take the time, as much of a pain as it is some days, take the time to build the solid foundation with the A, B, C, D. And like I said, E becomes a little bit more independent, and G is definitely independent. They are on their own. So you put the time in now, and the payoff, you're going to be very pleased. You're going to have smart math kids. The other part of it too, and I know you don't want to work on your math skills, but it will also make a difference in your math skills. All right, any other questions? Well, thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic day. Remember, if there's anything we can do for you, please shoot us an email, give us a call, and we'll do what we can to help you out. Have a wonderful day.